So welcome back to another episode of Explain Yourself. This is round 3 at the Entomological Society Conference, and I have Dr. Adrian Smith with me to talk about his research and his experiences in academia. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, totally. Excited.
So the way I like to start all of these is with your elevator pitch for your most current research. So the short and sweet version.
Yeah, I knew this was coming, but okay, let me try. I'm interested in communication in a bunch of different ways. I'm interested in animal communication, and specifically I study social insects and how communication plays a role in how they organize and make functional societies and maintain those functional societies both in the short term and the evolutionary long term. But I'm also super interested in science communication and how people talk about science, how scientists present their science, how we sort of, we as researchers talk about why we do what we do, and making that available for people to interact with and learn from and engage with.
So you see, I had to interview him because I'm supremely interested in this stuff, and that's why we're here. Are you a fan of XKCD?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so have you seen The Simple Writer?
Yes.
Okay, have you tried it?
No,
oh, okay.
I have not.
Well, you're going to get a chance to now. So I like to make everybody use The Simple Writer. So you type here, and basically you can say, I study da-da-da-da-da, and this is like the 100 or 1,000 most common words used in the language, and rewrite us your elevator pitch using simple words.
Yeah. I study little animals that work together and sometimes have to fight.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, you know, it would give someone a basic idea of what you do.
Yeah.
Although a lot of people have been like, well, this is oversimplification. And yes, I'm sure if you said insect or bug, the average person would be like, oh yeah, okay. But it's still, I love making people do this because it really makes you think about excluding any kind of jargon from what you're saying. And it's just a fun challenge.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes you come up with different ways to say what you want to say.
I'll put that on my business card.
Yeah.
Little animals that sometimes fight.
So now you can expand a little more and tell us more without having to use the simplest words.
Okay. I work on things like social insects and how one of the characteristics to be like an ant is you have to have a reproductive division of labor. That means you have to be someone there laying the eggs and reproducing. That's usually the queen. And then there has to be other individuals there that actually raise that individual's offspring and care for it. That's the division of labor. And in that case, those are usually the workers. Yeah. So one of the main things that I study is sometimes in most ants, the workers retain functional ovaries so they can actually lay eggs. So they can choose instead basically to stop raising the eggs of a queen and then lay their own reproductive eggs. And when they do that, there has to be mechanisms in place for the rest of the workers to be able to sense that and stop those workers from doing it so that they can maintain a functional reproductive division of labor and a functional ant society.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I knew that bees could do that, that like a worker bee could, without being fertilized, could like lay drones.
Right.
I didn't know that ants did it.
Yeah, yeah. So like bees, a common way to control that when workers will lay a drone is egg policing. So some bees will actually go in to the comb and sniff out the worker laid eggs and actually just eat them and destroy them.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the other common one and both of these things are true for bees, wasps, and ants.
Well, the social ones. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Is physical policing. So that's when the nestmate workers will actually sense out the reproductive ones and physically aggress them and prevent them from reproducing.
So that's where sometimes fight comes into the
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
So sometimes they work together, but sometimes they have to fight.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you do anything with termites? Because that's the other eusocial. No. Okay.
Well, the things that I do with termites are go collect the logs from the forest and then sprinkle them out like a salt shaker into my ant colonies, and the ants eat them.
Oh,
that's how I work with termites.
Cool.
Termites are like the hot dogs for ants. I mean, they're like the perfect food for the ants that I study.
I think we just found the title for this episode.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you use termites as food for the eusocial insects you are studying.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have so many questions now.
Okay.
So all ants are truly social. Yes. Right. Okay. Yeah. And so they have the same like sexual chromosome decision-making thing that bees do, right? So like a worker ant who wasn't fertilized could only lay male ants, right?
Right. Haploid eggs. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So what wouldn't trigger that? Like what makes them?
Well, so in the normal situation, when a queen dies, a lot of ant species don't requeen their nest, or there's only a single queen. So in that situation, you have like an orphan group of workers, and then it makes the most sense for those workers to have the last sort of ditch effort if they're not going to requeen, like a lot of bees do, just to activate their ovaries and lay a batch of male destined eggs that develop into males and then send out that last hurrah. Okay,
so it's a different kin selection, right? That if we can't have our sister or mom reproducing, then at least we could make some sons that would go and reproduce.
Right, okay, right. But you can see how that might go haywire.
Yeah.
And workers might sort of, if you're making 100,000 workers a year in a colony or something like that, or even more, you can see one or two of those just for whatever reason lose that inhibitory whatever and actually start reproducing. And if those genes spread in the population, right, if those workers are allowed to successfully reproduce, send out males that for whatever reason have that weird mutation, you can see how that would be sort of a trait that might spread.
Yeah.
You might have to keep under control in an evolutionary sense.
Yeah. Okay, so you said they don't requeen. So like, where do queen ants come from?
So they come from that sort of like a yearly cycle of a mature colony. Okay. There'll be a certain season where they'll lay male destined eggs along with female destined eggs that get either usually fed a specific diet to develop into winged sexuals. Okay. Sometimes it's genetic also.
I was wondering because in bees it's the whole which they like royal jelly or bee bread thing, right?
Right, so, exactly, yeah. So same sort of thing with ants, and then that's just the next sexual reproducing batch that'll fly out.
So they'll disperse and start their own new colony, but once a queen from one colony dies, that colony doesn't like keep one of those queens to keep going.
Usually not. Okay. It happens in a few species, and then you have weird things like colonies that like do the fission thing, like honeybees swarming, and then you have colonies with multiple queens too, species with multiple queens. Yeah. But the sort of general ground plan of a single queen nest, usually most of those species I don't think requeen.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So how does all of this interface with, or does it interface with your science communication research interests?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's all intertwined. Like the science communication story is, well, I guess the current version of it is I mostly make videos to accompany research publications, both mine and for colleagues that I work with. And those videos are tied to a press release that's written about the research, and the video stands in as like a way to make the press release sort of media rich, and also to get the individual researcher, whether it's me or someone else, sort of on screen and expressing exactly what they want to say about their research and expressing sort of maybe what they found, what they discovered, or an aspect of that, but then also why they think it's important, and sort of having them have that sort of value statement built into that, and have them representing their own work when it gets out.
At all.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I love that. I think more people should be doing like video abstracts or something like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's right in that vein for sure. Yeah.
So how long have you been doing that?
Well, I started. I wasn't as ahead of the curve as you are, in that I didn't really do much of this digital media science communication stuff as a grad student. I really started it when I was a postdoc at University of Illinois. I got interested in it because I wanted things to be out there that weren't out there, so then I was just like, why don't I just start doing it myself?
Yeah.
So I got really into listening to podcasts, and I would listen to podcasts when I would do like, menial tasks in the lab, like feed my colonies or like process data or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I do it while I sort insects.
Yeah, and so I was like churning through like 10, 15 hours of podcasts a week, just like crazy. And I would mostly listen to comedy podcasts like Mark Maron's WTF, and then I would just kind of like had a weird knowledge of like stand-up comedy from that because I was just eating like 15 hours of it a week. It was just crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so then I was like, well, like why doesn't this exist for the job that I do? I'm not a stand-up comedian. Like I want to be like a professional biologist. I want to be a researcher. So why don't I just go out and do this and like start, emailing the people that I think have cool research careers and like ask if I can sit down with them for an hour in their office and like ask how they got to where they are and why they do what they do. And I did it from the perspective of being a postdoc and being super junior to them, and I approached it like that, and the conversations were like that. I just wanted them to talk to me about, basically convince me why I should continue pursuing this,
Yeah.
So I did that for a couple of years.
Is it still available?
Yeah, it's still out there.
Tell us the name.
It's called Age of Discovery Podcast. You can go to aodpod.com.
I'll put the link in the description. It'll be right down there.
Yeah. So I think there's 11 episodes of that on that website. I did a 12th one, but I didn't release it. Yeah, maybe one day. I'm trying to transfer everything over to YouTube actually, so I don't have to pay the domain stuff and can archive it better. So yeah, I did that for a couple of years, and then I switched to video because I've always had an interest in video and film production stuff. I took one semester at Scottsdale Community College Film School as a grad student.
That was a good idea. I feel like,
Yeah, it was just basically one class. It sounds fancier than it was, but I mean, all that really, the thing that did is like introduce me to like some editing systems,
Yeah.
like get me into that, and that was kind of all I needed. The rest you can kind of Google and figure out. So that was the one thing that I did do it as a grad student, but then I didn't really use those skills that much until I was a postdoc. And so then now I switched over just to video and concentrated more and more on that for science communication stuff.
Awesome. Okay, so
Yeah.
you mostly make videos about other people. You don't make videos about your own research?
Both.
Okay.
I mean, I make videos about my research, but I'm average just publishing like 2 papers, like self-authoring 2 papers a year, and I want to make more than two videos a year.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, when I find a colleague that's game for it, explain what we're doing, and then we'll collaboratively write a script and film it, and then mostly I'll do all the post-production stuff, and then we'll work together to release it with their institution.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So you can answer the following questions about either aspect or both aspects of what you do. But what is your favorite part about what you do? So it can either be about your research or
Discovery is the favorite part. So I mean that's like the cool part of the job, right? Is you get to go to work every day, and you get to be in a position where you can be the first person to see something, the first person to notice something, the first person to describe something, whether how big or small that is. It's usually, you're doing what you do because it's new and because it's discovery based, and that's a real cool thing. And that's also like the point of the science communication stuff, because it's because a lot of research is discovery based, and so no one else knows about it, and we can be the people who tell people about it, and I think that's a really cool thing and a really like a privileged position to be in that I want to take advantage of.
Definitely. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Flip that. Do you have something that's your least favorite part of either of the things you do?
I don't know. Like I guess hand in hand with that is like you can't really choose what you discover. It sort of it happens, and it's not really a lot of it isn't. You can't really plan some things, and I think some of the best work comes unplanned. And it'd be nice if I could say like, I'm gonna go to work next Tuesday and I'm gonna figure out this thing that no one's figured out before, right? I mean, that'd be awesome.
But we don't get to.
But you can't,
like that,
and you have to like wrestle through problems, and you have to.
Or things don't wind up having a result, no difference occurs, or the opposite difference from what you expected, or
right, or you have to do like 6 months of experiments to figure out that, okay, I just spent 6 months figuring out that what I thought was happening was not happening, and I still don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
What?
Or that you were doing it wrong. And
Right. So that part is a plus and minus, just depends on how I look at it in the particular day.
To go along with that, is there something that you wish you could go back in time and tell your younger self so that you would know it instead of having to learn it the hard way?
Ooh, boy. This is kind of a depressing answer, but it's a long road to a job. It's a long, horrible road to a job for a lot of science, especially for like natural history, behavior stuff that I do. I'm fortunate that I got a job, but a lot of my grad student colleagues and a lot of my colleagues are that I didn't go to grad school with, that are definitely like smarter than I am, maybe a better researcher than I am, still don't have a faculty job, and it's kind of a sad thing. And it just takes a while to get a job, and there's no guarantee of it, right? So, I mean, that would be a depressing. I wouldn't want to tell myself that going back, I guess, but it's a reality that you learn.
And I think if you explain it the right way, because it does sound depressing, but I think what you mean is that like we can't all expect that it's just going to like happen, because this is a fun job too, right? Like being in academia is awesome, or at least it can be awesome and rewarding. And so like there are so many people who want to do it that like sometimes it's competitive, or the job isn't always open at the serendipitous moment for you. So like keeping your options open or having realistic expectations, I think that's something that we should know going into this.
And I guess like the other thing that I'd say, and that I'm probably the positive advice I give myself, is that I only got a job because I started doing science communication as a postdoc. That's the only reason I got my job.
Okay.
I didn't get it just because my research is awesome. It's middle of the road, honestly. But it's because I started doing something that I like had a personal passion and personal interest with, and I was just like, I'm just gonna do this. I'm not gonna like. I'm just gonna do it because I want to do it, and I'm gonna like insert this into my professional career, and like honestly, like that's the thing that got me a job.
So it's something you have passion for that makes you stand out, and that's
It's like I took the time from grad school. I was just like, I'm not even gonna ask my advisor. I'm just gonna enroll in this Scottsdale Community College Film School. Shout out to Scottsdale Community College. I see you in there. I'm just gonna enroll in that like as a night class, because maybe I want to drop out of grad school and go to film school. I don't know. It could happen. It turns out that I've figured out that I could like incorporate this into what I was doing professionally as a grad student, which you're already doing.
But I mean, it's fun and it makes sense to go together. So that's good. Okay, so I know this is a heartbreaker question for all of the entomologists here, but if somebody told you, stop right now, you can never study ants or like any kind of insect ever again, what other organismal group would you study instead?
Humans.
Because we also communicate?
No, because there's a million things to study about humans, and humans are infinitely fascinating. And there's multiple ways you can study them. I mean, you can go into marketing, and you're basically studying human behavior. I mean, it's like things like that. Or like I don't know. There's a lot to work with there.
Okay, so you're a natural history type person right now. Would you do human natural history, or would you do like medical, or would you do psychology?
I'll tell you one thing. I'm trying to incorporate into my current lab. I've only had a lab for like 2 years, and I'm trying to incorporate more social science about science communication, and about how the public interfaces with science informs values and value opinions about science. Because I think it's a really important thing to look at and study academically, and to work with social scientists, and to bring social science into sort of natural sciences, natural history.
How do we make this better?
Well, and how can we use that social science to sort of test and make build evidence-based strategies for effective science communication, right? There's a whole field of science communication in social science, and it's relatively nascent. Like it's new, and a lot of it focuses on some of the things you'd expect a field about that to first focus on, like controversial things like health related communication or climate change communication. So they're super important, but there's not much out there in the literature about basic biology or basic natural history stuff, and you see that more and more, being singled out maybe in mainstream news media as like, why, like senators single it out as like, is this government misspending? Why are we spending anything on that? And that's a value-based public perception problem that I think social science and the science of science communication can really step in and provide some useful things for.
That is an excellent insight. I like that a lot. Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Value.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna dial it back a lot here.
Okay.
Why did you decide that you wanted to become a scientist, and also why go to grad school and not just stop at undergrad?
Right. Okay, where do you go to school at?
Northern Illinois.
Okay, it's about to get weird. Buckle up.
Okay, cool.
I was born and lived until I was 12 in Sycamore.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
That's the town literally right next door to my university.
Yeah, I was just in DeKalb like 2 weeks ago.
Cool.
Where NIU is. My grandpa worked in the NIU rec department, renting canoes to undergrads.
Okay, you're gonna come talk to our department for something in the future.
So yeah. So I bring that up because I already knew that actually. Have you been to the Midwestern Museum of Natural History?
I haven't, but some of my friends work there.
Okay, so some of your friends work there.
Or volunteer as docents.
Yeah. So that's now it's in downtown Sycamore. But when I was a kid, it was in Grandpa Shelkoff's barn. Like he had that whole the majority of that collection is from, I forgot his last name, but his first name, but his last name is Shelkoff, and I know that because one of my friends in grade school was his grandson, Chris Shelkoff, and so we would take, I think we did this at least once or twice that I can remember. We would take class field trips to his grandpa's farm, and in a back building was all of the taxidermy, the big game taxidermy from Africa.
That is crazy.
And it was like, yeah, it was like in a cornfield in like northern Illinois.
I expect nothing less.
Yeah, so we would go in there, and it's like I think there's a huge elephant. There's several lions, and some of them are taxidermy, like attacking stuff, and it's like just in the middle of like nowhere in someone's barn, and you bring like a bunch of kids in, and it's like, oh, Chris, your grandpa's awesome. Like, what's going on? This is insane.
Yeah.
So that's probably like a major driving force in me, like being interested in like the natural world and animals and animal behavior was like that, and it's really cool. Like I was just at that museum 2 weeks ago when I went up for my grandpa's 90th birthday. I took my 1.5-year-old son there to that museum. Yeah, it was really cool. He was scared of the elephant. The elephant makes a noise now, so it's that part's not baby friendly. Elephant noises are scary, turns out.
Well, they're loud.
Yeah. So like just being exposed to that stuff, like as you know, as a kid, the perspective on like northern Illinois is like there's not much like natural stuff out there. It's just like there's not really much. There's like,
if you like corn, there's a lot of corn.
Yeah. So based on that, I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Okay.
Because that's what I think what Chris's dad was a veterinarian, the son of the grandpa who has a crazy collection. So I think I wanted to be a veterinarian. Then I was allergic to cats, so I couldn't really be a veterinarian. So I went into undergrad like pre-health, like everybody does. I got a job in an ant lab because I needed money. I worked there for 3 years and discovered you could like study ants as a job, which kind of blew my mind. No idea, no clue. Never met a scientist beyond like, you know, like veterinarians and stuff. So I did that for undergrad. Then I went to grad school to study ant behavior because I had done it for 3 years as an undergrad and wanted to continue doing it. Yeah.
It's a good thing insects don't have dandruff, I guess.
Well, I'm allergic to crickets now.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Really? Like eating them or like just being around?
No, like handling them, just from feeding them to my ants and stuff. Yeah.
That's kind of a bummer.
Yeah. I moved on to mealworms now. Now we have a mealworm collection.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are better. So far, knock on wood, wherever the wood is.
Oh, punny. What do you think is your greatest strength as a researcher, or as a science communicator, or both?
It's both. It's because I do both.
Okay.
I don't think I'm particularly strong at either one of them. I think there are people that communicate science better than I do. I think there are people that do science, my particular science, better than I do. But I think for some people, strengths lies in like a very specific expertise. I don't think that's where my particular strengths are. I think they're in bringing multiple different interests together and trying to put those all together into a single area or something like that. So I think that's the strength is being willing to try new things in science communication and digital media and linking all that to the research that I do.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
And is there something that you identify that you still need to like work on quite a bit?
Yeah, man. I spent like 2 hours this morning after I got out of bed learning how to do animated text transitions in Adobe Premiere. Watched a lot of YouTube tutorials this morning. That's my current thing. No, like there's always something to learn in both areas of science communication and in the research science. That's like part of the job is relying on your current set of skills, but also trying to incorporate and pick up new skills into that. And literally for me, it's as dumb as like watching YouTube tutorials about how to animate text.
That's what they're there for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And our sort of like wrap up question, and so I know you said you've had a lab for about 2 years now, so your early career, although maybe a little later than some of the other people we've interviewed in this. So what are your sort of like further directions? Where do you want to be headed now?
So the science of science communication is something that I really want to get into in a serious way. Start collaborating with social scientists and bringing some of the people into my lab. So doing that sort of stuff, and right now I work in, my lab's in a museum, so it's in the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences, and my lab is like a glass floor, ceiling glass walled, so we have like 900,000 visitors a year, and every one of them can just walk by my window and then get disappointed when they just see me typing on my computer. But
you can watch them, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But yeah, I'm sort of getting adjusted to what it means to be in the museum field, and how I can bring my expertise to that, and sort of reconfigure my research a little bit to be specifically geared towards being in that place. So that's a little vague because I don't know exactly what the answer to that is yet, but something I'm thinking about. Yeah.
I can't wait to see what happens with all of that.
Yeah.
So I'd like to thank Adrian so much for coming on and talking to us about his research and his science communication interests, because it's something I'm very excited about. So thank you, and I wish you the best of luck with setting up your lab and figuring out how you fit into the museum.
Thanks.
If you liked this video, don't forget to like it. If you didn't like this video, please share it with someone who would. And if you'd like to support the Roving Naturalist, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you can get notifications when I post new videos. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.